And we're in the back of the PAC area where our performing arts takes place. And right now we've got a lot of equipment in the hallways because we don't have adequate storage for our drama department. And that will be one of the things that are addressed. We'll open up these hallways and remove those fire hazards. All right, we are in our metals lab where we have a lot of our equipment that was written for through a grant to prepare kids for college and careers. We have welding stations, we have a lot of lathes and CNC routers and laser cutters. What's the challenges in this particular facility, guys?
This particular building here, or this room here, has no air conditioning. What that's going to do is have a humidity moisture problem because everything now has newer computerized stuff. This is on the south end of the building, so the sun gets in here. This room can get up to 80, 90 degrees when the kids are in here during the day. We need to keep this room cooler along with the woods and the auto shop to make all these components last much longer.
So humidity control in here would make it much more comfortable, but also protect the life of the equipment.
Yes, the kids would be easier to work in here being cooler.
How about the wood shop? Would that be addressed as well?
Wood shop would also be concerned, or the same thing. They have all the saws that are computerized now. If we go into the autos, everything with the autos is a lot more stuff is computerized. Those rooms would be much cooler because they just get the sun all the time on the south and they just get way too warm.
Thank you very much. Let's go to the next location. So this is the only lift station in the area here going into the Mapleview Elementary building. So I'm going to take a ride. I'm sure some people will take the stairs, but for those patrons that have either crutches or wheelchairs, this is their only way to get from one level down to the other. So you can hear the button as pushing. You can see the lift coming up through the window. The door will pop open, and if I were in a wheelchair or have crutches, this is how I would get to the elementary building. So I'll see you guys down below. I'm going to push this down button here, and we'll just kind of wait for that door to close. It takes a while, which unfortunately causes some of our kids to be a little bit tardy for class. We are in the Mapleview Elementary. We've got two classrooms side by side. We're going to give you a little bit of a compare contrast. This is currently our driver's ed location. And as you can see, this is a pretty large classroom. It's got a lot of space for students. Tony, what's kind of one of the challenges in this room?
One of the challenges in this room is it's got the unit ventilators. It's like an old heating cooling room like you're used to in a motel. They're the bigger units on the back wall. At the point that their age, they're getting to that we can't buy parts for them anymore. And when they break down, you just can't get them back fixed. So part of the referendum would be upgrading and getting new heating and cooling in this end of the building.
So typically schools, when they're built today, have forced air, which means it's coming out of the ceiling and it's all heating and cooling from one centralized system rather than each one of these classrooms has their own unit.
Yes, if you think of like an old motel room, it just controlled that room. Now we want to go to is more like a furnace at home where one heating air conditioning controls multiple areas rather than just, because we have one unit in the ceiling for the big room and one in the small room, and actually there's one in the office. So there's 3 units in here we could just turn over to 1 unit.
And as we go across the way to the next room, we'll see that there is a classroom right adjacent, which is a very different experience than the classroom we were just in. If we come into this location, we'll see that it's a very small room. And part of this referendum, what it does is it repurposes the sizes of the rooms so that each one is roughly the same size, length, width, so that we can propose a classroom of 25 to 30 students. You would not get 25 or 30 students in this space, but if we were to move this wall over and just repurpose this room size to be a little bit bigger in this room and a little bit smaller in the next, we could easily get 2 full-size classrooms into these locations. The reason that is important is because if we are able to get 2 classrooms in this space, we can actually then bring the entire math department down into this wing with appropriate sized classrooms. Right now we can't because we couldn't use this space for math. Right now math is separated into 2 different parts of the building, as well as art, another place that's separated over 2 locations in our building. We want to bring those departments together so we can do more collaboration with kids. Off to the next location. This location is our robotics room. So as we walk into this space, again, a very small sized classroom. A lot of space is being taken up with equipment and storage. These are the actual robots on the shelves that I have work kits, and the tables take up almost all of the floor space, so that when kids actually need to work on the robots, they most often and frequently take it into the hallway to work outside in the hallway location. Tony, other places or things to think about when we think about robotics?
Just to have more room to be able to breathe and build stuff. I mean, a lot of times they come in on a Sunday and meet, so they can use the hallway and they can maybe use a room across the hall because no one is in there during the day.
All of the rooms in Mapleview were never built with the idea that each kid would have their own laptop or charging, a need for a charging of a device. You can see there's one plug on this entire wall, which is consistent all the way around the classroom. There just was never built in the 1950s a classroom with the idea that each kid would have a device that needs to plug in. So another area that we need to address in an older facility. Off to our next location. As I come around the corner here, I start to pick up some noise, and it's because we are approaching our boiler room. So this is the boiler room in the Mapleview area. We've got some old electrical panels, we've got some water pumps, and a lot of HVAC and returns. Tony, kind of help me out here. What's going on here? What would be improved?
A lot of this could be changed over to be more efficient stuff. The automation system, we can't see some of this on the computer, some we can. But just to upgrade, get rid of the stuff that's no longer being used from the grade schools from the 50s, and just getting it upgraded to newer stuff where it's run hopefully much quieter than this, because this is rather loud.
So this is like 70 years old?
Yes, the one guy that we did a tour today said he was in kindergarten in 57. So the school must have been built in the early 50s to him to be open in 57. So yeah, some of the stuff could be 70 years old.
Why is it so loud in here?
Just the way the pumps, the older pumps that are in here and stuff, that could be upgraded. It's just the way they run, and it's a thicker insulated kind of room, I think, to help hold the sound, but it's just really old stuff.
Thank you. Well, a lot of this old stuff would get updated if we would have a referendum that would address some of these major issues inside of our HVAC unit and our boiler room. Right across the hallway from the boiler room is the only restroom for students' access in the Mapleview location of the high school. As we come around, this is an extremely tight corner here, which would be very challenging for a wheelchair to be able to come around that corner. And once we get into this location, these partitions here and stools, none of which are handicap accessible or up to code, it would be very challenging for any type of a wheelchair or handicapped student with crutches or so forth to maneuver in these kinds of locations. This obviously was built for a large classroom of little kids to come in and use the restrooms all at once. We don't need these many stools and or urinals in one location. We could retrofit this space and make it more efficient with appropriate number of handicap accessible spaces for our student population that has classes in the Mapleview area. Off to the next location. This space doubled up as the old restroom to the high school. It's a space that has yet to be updated and remodeled. It also serves as a storing area, but more than that, it's a place where mechanical is spending a lot of their time. Tony, what's been happening in this space?
This space has the galvanized lines going through it, the domestic water lines. And what we've had over the past is when they did a remodel at one point, they ended up the area that I'm in closing it off completely, and the water lines run above us, and then the water line popped a hole in it. They could just see the water coming out underneath the block. So what they did is they came in here and started investigating, and they actually pounded a hole in the wall, the cinder block that was here. When they came in, the water was about waist deep because the water was going. And that's when they realized when they did a construction project, they enclosed a room with no exit or no entrance to it. So they went in and they fixed the water lines, and then we opened this up for more storage. But none of this has been touched since the school's original from the 60s. So this all needs to be abated, remodeled, and make this a current space that we could use.
When you say fixed pipes, give me an example.
If we look up on the top, you see the pipes going through. Everything between the two orange couplers was bad pipe. They took out and replaced. And then if you look all the way over in the corner, you can see that's a clamp that I put on in the last year and a half where it sprung a leak and started leaking again. And I chipped it out and got the clamp on because the valves are so old now. I'm actually afraid to move the valves because if I move the valves and they break in a closed position, this feeds the kitchen area and we wouldn't have any water in the kitchen. So we just do them when they're on. There's actually more piping back in here. This is all like art storage right now, but at the same time, none of this has been ever touched, and it was actually closed off. That's why it looks so bad. But we have more water pipes. In between those orange couplers is bad, and actually you can see that fitting looks like it's getting to be bad. That, and without any valves, we just hope it doesn't like break and get worse, but all these galvanized pipes need to be replaced. besides being abated, the whole area.
So is that corrosion on a clamp of a pipe that you've already fixed, so it's already starting to kind of give?
Yes, they said some of this pipe started happening like 10 or 12 years ago, the more I asked people about what happened. So that may be a 10-year-old clamp, and a clamp is more of a temporary fix. And now we need to take the galvanized lines out, put in some decent copper, re-insulate it, and then it'll last for the next 50, 60 years.
Galvanized, obviously, it rusts, it corrodes, and then it just kind of creates more pressure in the lines because the water's going through all that rust and corrosion, causing things to bust and burst and so forth.
Yes, and the hot water lines are on a recirculating pump, so they get moved through the school. So on one end, when you turn the hot water on, you don't have to wait for it to get all the way there. It's there fairly quick. So there's usually water moving through the lines all the time. So that's why it eats it up from the inside. But at the same time, the pipes aren't made to last forever. And these are actually 60 years old or older right now. So they're at the end of their life.
So I kind of go out, I just have to notice that there's all of these places where there's holes in the ceiling. I assume that these are places where you've had to open up the ceiling in order to find a pipe or see if there's a leak at that location or the next location. Is that kind of the story
I think
there?
what they did on some of it is they opened that up and tried to hand pipe over through so they get longer pieces. The pipe usually comes in 20-foot lengths, and on the back side of this wall, there's actually another spot up there where it was bad. We have a clamp to there and a clamp to there and a clamp to there because it was the length of pipes they could get in there. But every time you put in a mechanical joint, that's actually something for a potential leak. So we have multiple clamps in there. Besides the 3 clamps I've added in the 5 years I've been here, so we have numerous spots that could go bad now.
So clearly, as we're up taking care of those pipes, getting them replaced so there's no more galvanized, replaced with insulated copper, that's the time to repair your ceilings, put these holes back together, close it all back up, and at the same time fix some of the old flooring and the tiles and so forth.
Yes, get everything tested, make sure there's no asbestos in there, get everything abated, open it up, make there room that construction people can get in, put in bigger lengths of pipe, putting new valves where we can valve off areas and keep it, control it better, and then make this a usable space, not just a storage space.
Thanks. Let's go to our next phase. Well, this classroom looks pretty normal at the onset, but as I start to look at this flooring, even though it looks like it might be some type of a terrazzo mix, what I'm realizing is it's just simply a vinyl over the top of these tiles here, and even that vinyl's chipping away. Tony, tell me about these tiles. They look kind of interesting.
The tiles are 9x9 tile, and most of the 9x9 tile are asbestos related, have asbestos in them. And also the mastic underneath has got asbestos in it. This is one of the rooms that we'd have to have people come in, test. If it tests positive, abate the whole classroom, get this out. Now there's numerous classrooms in this hallway that have that. Get all the asbestos removed and then be able to bring in and put down fresh tile and then wax it, and then we'd be ready to go again.
So there's a hallway of classrooms that are just like this, probably below and above. This is the 1950s, 60s English math hallways, is that right?
Yes, and I graduated here in '79, and if you're from that era, those classrooms for there are some have got done, some haven't gotten done. And without going in each room and testing, we're not sure what's underneath the tile. So we would have to do numerous rooms and do the testing. But at the same time, this is one of the rooms that has the water lines going through it. Now this is a hatch that I had to cut into the wall to fix the joints inside that are bad. Because as you can see, once again, that we have the clamps there and another clamp on the other side from stuff that just, that's one of the walls they built, and then when they isolated this, you can't get to it. But the water lines that have to be replaced.
So, I mean, this is an obvious question, but like when it springs a leak, what happens? Like, is there literally just like water filling that cavity or,
When this one broke, when this was still regular block, there was a storage room in here and it was filling up with water. And then as I investigated, I could see from over the ceiling tile, because the wall ends right there, I could see the water. So then I beat a hole through here and had a plumbing firm come in, and then between us, we got the clamps to put it on there. And since then we had the door installed. Since then, the next line back actually broke. And now I'm at the point that I stock these clamps in my maintenance supplies. So when one happens, most of the time I don't even call a plumber. Between me and myself, Gary, we come in and we just put these clamps on and clean the water up and keep it going. I can't shut the water down, because to shut the water down shuts the kitchen down. And then if we shut the water off, we have no bathrooms, no food, no bathrooms, no water, no school. So it just balloons into a bigger problem.
So that door wasn't always out in there. It was added as a way to punch through the wall to get to the pipes, and now you need a way to close it back up.
Yes.
Interesting. All right, off to the next spot. This is one of our special education classrooms, and specifically, again, a smaller room that's purposed for a smaller class size. But here we've got another example of tiles that have popped out and or cracked because they're so brittle. That is traditionally the story of almost all the classes in this 50 and 60s edition. All of these seams, you can see those black seams are where we know the tiles are starting to get ready to pop, and they just all need to be replaced. We do not know if that has mastic underneath it or not. It would have to be tested, and if it does test positive for asbestos, we would again have to abate these classrooms, get the asbestos removed, and then put down new tiling. Again, there's probably, even a couple good dozen of classrooms like that would have to be done.
Probably a good ones of that. And the other problem with the gapping in there, when summer comes and we strip and wax these rooms, then we get more water underneath it, and it just makes the problem worse. So that's why we need to get them tested, get them replaced, get new stuff down, and then we don't worry about the moisture getting underneath. Then less tile will pop up at the same time.
Thank you. So we are in the maintenance shop, and we were going to talk about the loading dock, but I think, Gary, you just said it well as you're walking in. This isn't even a loading dock, is it?
It's not a loading dock, it's the street. We can walk to the door and you can basically, the school does not have a loading dock. We currently, this is what we call our loading dock. It's the entrance down to the alley to get to the shop door. Otherwise, we unload up on the corner there of Barnes and Field. Truck will stop, you just watch traffic. If it's something that the truck driver didn't know he was coming here, we have to get a pallet jack it to the back of the trailer, then we take the forklifts on load, bring it into the building. But we always have to kind of play the game of what it is to make sure the surface level of the road is level, so we don't have items coming rolling out the back of the truck once they start coming down that hill.
You were sharing something, a truck had backed up and they were jacking up the pallet, and what was it that was going to start sliding off the back of the truck the other day?
Oh, it was a box of paint that we had out there, and then we stopped it in time. But usually it's the items like the clay and stuff like that where it's really heavy on a pallet.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this project will include a loading dock that's covered, that allows trucks to back up, go right into the building, right into the back of the freezers for the food. No need to prop open doors and hand truck carts through, which would interrupt kids in learning.
Right, which is a security issue of the truck drivers and the people coming in and out of the school where they block the doors and the doors aren't secured. Nobody's there to watch them.
Thank you. This is our art location, which will become the receiving area where the covered loading dock will be. And then right down this classroom line here, we'll take it right into the back of our kitchen. So this will all become maintenance area. And then our art will move over to where maintenance was, which in doing so will consolidate our art. So let's go in and see some of our art students. This is our adult education happening in person, live, as we come through the room. And they're spinning some wonderful clay. Mr. Roberts is our teacher. Tell us a little bit about some of the challenges in art.
One of the things we'd really like to address is bringing unity back to the department. We've got a classroom on the other side of the school that the two staff members have to split time between these rooms and down there. So I think bringing some of that unity back would be great.
So bringing everything back to one space, you don't have kids traveling back and forth across the building for art.
Yep.
Fantastic.